This is the thing. Who you choose to hang around with, who you choose to have in your posse is exactly who you become. Choose your posse wisely. I'm here to tell you that putting yourself first is not selfish, it's revolutionary. Welcome to the Woman Warrior Podcast, empowering women to light their lives on fire through Ayurveda, yoga, spirituality, and fitness. Jai Bhagwan, Women Warriors, and welcome to the Woman Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Satyavani, and I have my favorite and only genuinely amazing co-host here,
Prajna Madhavi.
Oh, girl.
Yeah.
How are you?
It's been a week.
It's been a week.
It's been a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
But
I'm tired today, too.
I have a lot of, it's that tired, but still have a ton of energy. So
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yep. It's actually ironic you should say that because today, friends, we are going to talk about metabolism and metabolic disease. There's a lot of that I'm seeing out there in the world and how that relates to Ayurveda and how it relates to fitness, and actually more of a focus on from an Ayurvedic perspective always, but also more about what the symptoms, quote, or what we call in Ayurveda samprapti looks like, and actually how a lot of them can be mitigated. So we want to be proactive as it relates to this. I digress for right now, but I wanted to start us off with our regular wellness check-in. So Praj, go ahead. What's going on?
Yeah. So as always, the wellness check-ins, we're looking at the 5 different layers of the self. So we've got the physical, the energetic, the mental emotional, the intuitive or the witness consciousness, and the spiritual self. So
Look at you, just rattling.
yeah, I'm getting better.
So good. So good.
So physically, I'm tired today.
Yeah.
But just as I said,
Do you feel sleepy or do you feel physically fatigued?
mainly sleepy.
Okay.
Yeah, I am feeling just sleepy. I've not been getting the regular amount of rest.
And
that I
why is
normally
that? Everybody.
I just have some things in my personal life that are going on that, I don't know, just changes the energy for me and gets me a little bit more anxious about things. So, so it's a challenge.
We'll keep our listeners hanging in the balance.
Willing to take on. And it's, you've got to also keep yourself healthy and get the sleep. So it's finding that balance.
First pillar of health, sleep.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny you should bring that up because I actually had a client today who was traveling. I only got to see her once last week, and we usually see each other twice. And so she flew actually all the way to Hawaii for a conference for 2 days and then came back. And that's like a 7-hour flight from here because she had to connect through Seattle and the whole thing. Ugh.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I was like, was the weather nice? She was like, yeah, but I didn't really get to see a whole lot of it. But that being said, it was so funny. I mean, as a trainer, you go to see your client and then it's like confessions from the client. She's like, I didn't work out since the last time I saw you. And she's just like, had to get that out right away. And I'm like, that's okay. I'm not the workout police. I'm just here to help you get better. And so we were talking about the whole thing, and she's just like, it was really one of those, if I have to choose between sleep or exercise, I'm choosing sleep. And I was like, you chose wisely. She said, but I did get like 14,000 steps because I guess it was at this huge hotel on the Big Island. And so going from the conference hall to her hotel room, lots of steps.
Yeah.
And she goes, so I got the steps and I drank the water. And I was like, great.
Yeah.
So.
She's listening.
Yep. So sleep, number one priority. So way to go, Emily.
Yeah.
Proud of you.
Aside from that, I feel my body fat percentage has finally gone below 20%.
Damn, girl.
Fairly consistently, which I've never really been there before that I'm aware of. So that's really nice. And
Congratulations. You look fabulous.
Thank you. Keeping the muscle a little bit higher, but it's not really moving a lot. So you have to eat more protein in order for that to happen. So.
And how are we doing on the protein?
Not
on a scale from 1 to 10.
confessionals.
I will be
Scale of 1 to 10
I'll
is
be your
probably
priest.
probably a 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's above average.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say it's above average.
Okay.
And then, working out. I feel really good working out. That's
So-
all been great. Trying to mix it up, and where I used to not work out every day, I'm working out pretty much every day.
Yep.
Doing something different. So that feels really good. How about you on the physical side?
I'm fat.
You're bulking.
I'm bulking right now.
Yes.
And it's hard. Like, as all of you who listen and know me very well, I've said 1,000 times, I love to eat, and I'm really good at it. And bulking season right now is hard. Like, I'm clocking in like 2,200 calories a day and like between 140 and 150 grams of protein. So it's like I get to the end of the day, I'm like, I just can't eat anymore. And coming from me, like that's a lot. So I feel huge.
Yeah.
But
And strong.
and really, really strong. So hit a PR this week with my deadlift, 170 pounds. So I want to get to a 200-pound deadlift by like mid-February.
Because then you got to cut, and then
Exactly.
all downhill from there.
It's all over after that. I actually, I said to both August and Grayson this week that I was like, I felt like I wanted to cut sooner. And they're like, no.
Yeah.
And August particularly, he's like, you will be eating those words in about 6 weeks from now. He's like, you're going to be wishing that you were, and he's right. So I totally understand why all of the things that eating, the calories and getting all of the large amounts of protein, et cetera. But it's harder to drag around these like 6-7 extra pounds. And I haven't actually done any of my stats. I just haven't had time because the place that I go to get those done, they don't open until 10 o'clock in the morning. And like my day's already off. I'm already 7 hours deep already into my day. So I got to circulate. So I don't know exactly like where my body fat percentage is, et cetera. I definitely know I've gained muscle because the other day I was just like, starting to get legs.
Getting a little booty.
I'm starting to get some booty. Like this white girl.
That was the goal.
This white girl's trying to get a booty. So we're working on it. So as for like, there's two sides to it. You know, there's one side where it's just like, God, I feel like I'm lugging around a lot of extra weight, which is good because now I know where I feel very efficient.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, you're doing this for a purpose and that's okay. So
When we had this conversation,
Yeah.
and I told you that it takes a lot of courage, and those of you out there,
thank you.
it takes a lot of courage to do what Satyavani is doing, and it, which a lot of people do it, but you really have to, when the times get hard and you feel, heavy or whatever, you have to remember why you're doing it. And I told you, I'm not in that camp. I'm like, I'm just going to maintain. I'm just not in that headspace.
And that's
to do
okay.
it. Yeah.
That's okay. Like,
So
it's all stages. And believe me, like I wouldn't have been in this headspace 3 or 4 years ago.
yeah.
Just completely different. And so my mind has shifted as a result. And it's interesting also to see the tapes that come up in your mind because, somebody who's recovering from having disordered eating for the majority of her life, those things, they do come up and you're just like, no, like that's not who I am anymore. But it's also really cool to feel and sense that coming up and then saying like, you're fine. And being able to move past it. And so it's like, okay, so there's growth in that space as well. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So on the energetic level,
Yeah. What's going on energetically?
energetically, again, my energy is, though I'm sleepy, I still have a lot of energy. I'm getting a lot of feedback from the universe that is working for me. The affirmations that our sister Michelle gave me,
I know.
I read those and recorded myself saying them.
Oh, you recorded yourself saying them.
And so I play them for
Because the
myself.
other day when you said like, I've been listening to them every day, I'm like, did she send an audio that I didn't know about?
No, I read through them and I was like, because I wanted to
Do you
hear
have
my
any
voice.
of them handy with you? You know what?
Well,
Hold
I
on.
know the one off the top of my head.
Go ahead, tell me.
It's the one that I do not chase, I attract. And that's the one I'm finding that when I keep saying that, that's
should be our
happening.
truth bomb for the day.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's happening in the universe. Like I don't feel like I'm chasing anything, and things are just coming my direction. So
They really are.
yeah.
That like stuff is happening for you. Popping.
Yeah. So that's been really nice.
I have the pictures of the affirmations that you sent. There's a lot of them. Mm-hmm. There's 30 of them here. Mm-hmm. So great of Michelle to share those with us.
I know.
The first one says, I radiate confidence everywhere I go. Number 2 is, I am dangerously beautiful. Oh, I like that. Mm-hmm. That reminds me, because this week when Grayson messaged me through the app, because that's where he posts my workouts and stuff, and he's just like, how are you feeling? And I was like, I'm fat. And he messages me back, goes, you're not fat, you're dangerous. And I was like, oh, I like that. Mm-hmm. So I am dangerously beautiful. I am the creator of my own life. I have the power to manifest anything I want into reality. I don't chase, I attract. Anything that belongs to me will find its way to me. Isn't that so true?
That's my other favorite one.
Go ahead.
Just owning up to the fact that whether it be people, whether it be a job, whether it be, if it's not staying in my life, it doesn't belong there. And I only want things.
I like that. Like the truth bombs are just coming out today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess that's the other thing. I got my acceptance letter for my sabbatical today after we had just talked about it.
Oh my God.
So I recertified to be a teacher, so I can be a teacher for another 5 years. And then
so not kicking you out.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, thanks for becoming a teacher. Here's your sabbatical paperwork.
Yeah. And then I got that from HR today. So that felt pretty good.
Oh my God.
Just to know that's,
this has made my day.
Yeah. And it'll come back to me if it belongs to me. And if that job doesn't belong to me, then it won't come back. Like that's just releasing more into the universe is.
I am so excited.
Really nice. And today being with Nicole at the senior center.
Oh, with gym guys?
Yeah.
So great.
I mean, just seeing the people there, like it really makes me, I'm making the right decision, because just hanging out there for 3 hours and just talking to people, and just hearing a little bit about their story.
Walker style?
Yeah, comparing their walker. I like your walker. It's so funny and so cute.
They're aren't they adorable?
Yeah, it's just thinking about the lives that they've led, and just experiencing where they are now and how it must be challenging for them, and how I should enjoy not only what I have, but also I want to be fit for life, because you see the people who have stayed fairly fit, and you see the people who have not.
And that becomes very clear when you get close to the senior population.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, I have my 2 ladies, Alice and Judy, who are neighbors that I train, and they are a hoot. Mm-hmm. I absolutely, like, no filter, just like, how you doing? My hip is bothering me. And so then, like, I'll leave on, at the end of the week, and I'm like, so what do you gals have planned? And she's like, Olive Garden and Canasta, and it's just like, I love that.
I know they're talking like pinochle, and
right, yes.
They got guys bringing in like, what is that, a fly rod? No, it's my pool stick. Exactly. And I'm just like, oh my God, like this is so cool.
They're so great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You are making the right decision. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. How did it feel to receive the paperwork today?
I just saw the little HR and I was like, oh, it's happening finally. Yeah, feels really good.
I'm so excited for you.
Mm-hmm.
So excited.
How about energy for you?
Oh boy, there is so much.
You need to quit your job, Prajna.
I've been telling Prajna all week, you have to quit your job. Like you have to quit, like now. Like now you have to
for like 2 years. You got to quit your job.
I'm like, I know. And we're like 16, 17 weeks away,
yeah.
Which really in the scheme of things.
It's going to go fast.
Oh, God. 54 days until spring.
Yeah.
Like that's easy. Everything is awesome, and I'm drowning.
Yeah,
I'm drowning.
You are taking on a lot.
It's all great stuff. We're getting ourselves set up. So for those of you that are listening to us, Prajna and I are doing a redesign with the One Warrior Academy. We are going to start offering tiered memberships for our online platform. So there's a free one, and then there's one that's low price, then middle price, and then upper price, depending on what it is that you're interested in participating in, which has been really cool and very clear. And so we'll have our webpage up about the online circle and how you can hang out with us in a variety of different ways. Actually, Bill, our web developer, Bill Thode, love you, Bill. Bill and I have had a long-term relationship since 2006 when ZenSpot first started. So Bill's been with us for a very long time. And I've only met Bill once in person.
Okay.
That's what's so funny, how you have these online, friendships. But like, I was there when like his kids were born and like not like at the hospital, but the whole thing. So he actually messaged me today and he said that he will have our webpage built for review about the online circle and all of the tiered options come this Monday. So stay tuned over the next couple of weeks and we will share that information on social media.
We've got Kelly and Jesse rocking it on their social media. They do such a great job.
Yep. Kelly Bateson Media. We absolutely love you. You and Jesse Crozier, just absolutely fantastic. So shout out to you gals as well.
Yeah.
So energetically, there's just a lot coming in. It's, and then we built our partnership with Carrie Powers and Kapow Training. And now those clients are now coming over to the Women Warrior Academy because Carrie Powers is getting ready to move on to bigger and better things. And so we're very excited for her. And so we've had some transition there. So we've acquired a company. I mean, not a company, but we, sold to us and now we're taking that on. So there's that. We are loyal members and building the Fit Body Bootcamp gym with all of our colleagues there. So if you want to come and hang out with us here in Boise, come hang out with us at Fit Body Bootcamp. And then working with Nicole with Gym Guys with all the in-home personal training stuff. So if you want to get involved in that and you're interested in having one of us come to your house, then look up Gym Guys, and just a lot, like all great stuff. I called my mom the other day after driving home. It was like 7:00 at night. And she's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Everything's great." She's like, "You sound tired." I said, "Yeah." Yeah.
That's great, Mom.
Yeah. It's like when you're up, I mean, you know the drill. You're up at, I'm up at 3:30 in the morning and running until 6:30, 7:00 at night.
That's my one saving thing since I've been waking up at 3. I'm like, well, at least Sat's already awake.
I love you sent me a telegram and I'm just like, what's up, girl?
At least there's one other person that I know is up this time.
Oh yeah. So, but even though like I'm tired in terms of, there's just a lot energetically, I totally feel fortified to handle it.
Yeah.
Hence, the bulking is helping in other aspects as well. So yeah, like I've got the stamina to keep it running. So yeah, it's been good.
Excellent.
How about you?
So on the mental emotional level, moving to that, I mean, energetically, I'm again, the sleepiness, but just it feels very okay. Like my energy is just like, in fact, I keep getting those comments from people of like, you just have a lot of energy. Yeah, I do.
Well, the glow.
Yeah.
You got the glow.
Got the glow.
I'm telling you. But like, come on, let's be realistic. Like 5 years ago,
No.
There was like no Ojas.
No.
And now like the Ojas is just like, whew,
yeah,
going all the way up.
Completely different. So mentally, emotionally, I'm just very, having it be the last year teaching, it's just not that mental strain of like, how much longer can I do this? 16 more weeks. And then I get to move on to something else that excites me and that lights me up. There's still some good things about my job. Like I still love teaching the kids and
you love teaching.
Yeah. I love that part. And it's time to move on. So I feel very mentally in a good space with that. I'm not feeling like it's going to be difficult or like that's not where my stress is coming from. I'm like, no, I'm ready. I've been ready.
Oh, yeah. I think you were actually ready at the end of the summer. Mm-hmm. And then...
Oh, I was.
Oh, yeah, because you were like, do I go back? Like a week before school, you still have time to decide.
Yeah. Like if we were where we are right now, come summer, I would have been like,
out.
I'm just going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
But it's good. You gave yourself the runway it is that my Vata lovelies need.
Vata babies need.
My Vata babies, they need it. They need it.
So emotionally, I'm feeling good about that. And then, on the relationship side.
On the dating side.
With dealing with
you
those
are interested
emotions.
in finding out more about Prajna's dating life.
I will not be mentioning on the podcast.
It's a trip, though.
It is a trip.
It's a trip. It's. I think part of the conversation for all of the single ladies out there, who are in their 40s and 50s, it's a different game. It's a very different profile because you'll have and gentlemen too.
Yeah,
the majority of the people that you're gonna meet have either like been married before or have had kids or, they're very established in their ways of being. And so, and then like your way of being and karma and their way of being and karma, like those two things coming together, has its, interesting dynamic. And you're also like both parties are not really in the age where it's just like, you start to be like, do I really want to put in this much?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you kind of like, like we're in your 20s, you're like, oh, we're going to make it work. And like, we're going to do this. And I want to find out more about you. Like in your 50s, you're like, I'm not going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we feel you out there.
Yeah,
for those
we do. And it is for both. But that is where I've been. And Nicole and I discussed that today too.
Right, because she's dating too.
Similarities there. And it's a ride. So.
Yep. But you and Holly had some kicks going to
country line dancing. Yep.
Cracks me up.
That's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm.
Dope.
How about mental emotional for you?
Like crystal clear, and very motivated, very excited. I feel very balanced. What I've become aware of mentally, emotionally is, I mean, you know me better than most people. I think the only person who knows me better is my husband, and probably my family. But I am very aware of like, you know what, you shouldn't do this extra thing today. Mm-hmm. Like my mind is literally speaking to me. And I think that leads into the intuitive part. Yeah. Where I'm listening way more to my intuition. That's just like, you know what, doing this one extra thing today isn't really going to make a difference. Go to bed. Mm-hmm. So where before it would have been like, no, I've got to do this. And then it leads to burnout. Yeah. And mentally, emotionally, I'm like there's so much joy right now. Like I just feel really joyful. And it's interesting because I've spoken to a lot of people, who had mixed emotions about the inauguration this week and all of that. And I'm just kind of checked out of all of that.
I didn't even pay attention.
Like literally, I worked the entire day of the inauguration and I came home and Michael was watching a little bit of it. And he gave me his feedback and I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. At the end of the day, I just want all of us to move forward. Mm-hmm. And whoever is occupying the office at the end of the day, like in your day-to-day, it really doesn't matter a whole lot. Mm-mm. So
it really doesn't.
Yeah. So having that clear mental space is fantastic. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Yeah. And it ties into the intuitive where I'm listening a lot more and saying like, yeah, today's not the day for this and that's okay. Yeah. So how about you intuitively?
Intuitively, I think that's sort of where the country line dancing came in. I just was kind of feeling like intuition wise, like I got to really find some things that are going to bring me more joy. And dancing and singing are just two things that keep coming up for me.
Do the things.
I mean, if I could go to a karaoke place that didn't sell drinks and people weren't drunk singing.
Right, and didn't smell like smoke.
Yeah, I would probably do that. The country line dancing there's no bar or anything like that. So it's just great. People just go there and just have a good time. And
it's great.
You can be done by 9 and go home.
Late.
Yeah, I know.
That's a late night.
It is a late night. That's why I'm sleepy. So it's, but yeah, and just the joy and hanging out with Holly and then eventually you and whoever else we can get out there. It really is just a fun time.
Everybody's placing bets.
yeah.
When is Sock going to go country line dancing? I'm not getting dressed up.
We're not even going to call it country line dancing because it really isn't country music.
Well, that's what you told me.
Yeah.
You said, what was it last time? Like, I know the time before you had like Pitbull. And then what was it
I didn't
this time?
recognize any of the songs.
That's what Holly said.
I kind of recognized one, but I can't tell you what it was.
What was the genre
It was very
feel?
poppy.
Pop music?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was popish.
Okay.
They play some country in between, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I can't do it.
I know.
The one part of the inauguration that I did see was, I don't know, I don't know really any country. I don't like country music, as you know, so I don't.
The national anthem?
No. It was like, I think Rascal Flatts or something came out.
Because I know Carrie Underwood, I think, did the.
Okay.
Because I think the speaker
It
went out or
was a
something.
little bit later on, like,
Okay.
they show all of him doing different things, et cetera. And, they have breaks where musicians come
the
out.
pomp
and all
and circumstance.
that. Right.
Yeah.
And like.
We're going to make this a big deal.
It was it was like a legit, country singer. And it wasn't like the person's voice was bad or anything, but just like as soon as that music
Twang?
comes right.
As the
it
twang
just
comes out?
Twangs like
Nails on a
what's with
chalkboard.
that's exactly it. Nails on a chalk. I'm like, I can't. Like Michael's just like, here's your music. And I'm like, I gotta leave the room. I can't, I don't know what it is. Actually I do know what it is. As a child growing up, and this is for you, Mom and Kyle. We used to do these summer family road trips down the Eastern Seaboard.
Now we get to it.
Yep.
Okay.
And my brother and I, we had a station wagon. Like, I mean, this is like classic Americana. This is so like the Griswolds.
Yep. Lampoon's Family Vacation.
At 100%. And my father would put in the tape cassette, because we still had tape cassettes then, Kenny Rogers' Greatest Hits.
Oh.
And we would hear that album non-stop. And so I think I'm like, I just can't do it. And like, I love The Gambler. Like, don't get me wrong. Like Kenny, I'm with it, but it was just like The Gambler and like Islands in the Stream and like all of these. I'm like, I just can't do it. And then like country music became pop.
It did.
And then I'm like,
Yeah.
So
I mean, once Beyonce singing country, it's gone pop.
please don't. I can't do it. So yes.
Wow.
And then spiritually,
Yeah.
we've taken a very long time with our
Yes, we
wellness
are.
check-in today.
Spiritually, still working on that. Just still trying to take the quiet moments. Still trying to do the candle gazing.
How is candle gazing going?
I've done it once in the last 2 weeks.
Last 2 weeks.
But I've done it once, and it was great.
Okay.
I think that's probably where my sleep needs to find its way as well. Just a different, more intentional wind down. So
Gotcha.
the candle gazing, pulling an oracle card, just kind of wind down a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's hard when you're busy, but
It is.
still got to do it.
So I'm at 3:30.
Yeah.
Up at 3:30 doing my Nilakanta meditation, and I got a couple of yoga nidras in over the past
nice.
past week, so that's been nice. I know, it's always interesting. Every time after a nidra, I'm like, why don't I do this more often? Like, what am I waiting for? So I got to stay on the nidra train. So that's been very helpful.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that was our wellness check-in.
Was it long
We're
enough for you
real
people?
well today. Got a lot of wellness.
So many wellnesses.
We're like fast forward.
Exactly. And if you don't want to listen to this, you can skip the first 40 minutes. Oh my God, it's definitely one of those days.
Yeah. Okay.
But we're going to try to be serious now and
All right.
talk about metabolic disease. So do you want to introduce this, my friend?
Well, so there's a lot of stats out there.
Yes.
Lots of stats. We have a huge crisis of metabolic disease. We've got some people say over 80%, some people say it's closer to 90%, and then the kid factor. Like, we've got a lot of people with metabolic diseases.
Yes.
And I just wanted to talk with you today more about okay, we know it's a problem.
Yep.
What do we do about it? And from an Ayurvedic lens, because there's a lot of people with those opinions. It's so great that we got rid of red dye number
12?
something.
12? Yeah, it was some number.
Yeah. Like,
Is that what's in ketchup?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, that's great.
Right.
And there's like
one.
20,000 other things that will harm you. So it is more, again, at the same time, it's a wonderful thing. It's also
progress.
How do people, if they know they have it, how can they start to try and mitigate it or reverse it? And how do you keep from getting metabolic disease?
Yep.
Which is the biggest thing that we are trying to teach women and everyone to do.
Yes.
So, for my first question to you,
Yes, ma'am.
in your practice, what are some of the top metabolic issues that you see or have seen?
Okay. Well, I'm going to answer that question, but I also want to set the stage a little bit. So,
Absolutely.
So there are 3 common metabolic diseases. The first one is diabetes. Super common. You've got type 1, you've got type 2. Type 1 is an autoimmune disorder, and that's where your immune system mistakenly attacks cells in the body. The type 2, which a lot of folks diabetes type 1 it's becoming more, you're seeing more of it. I'm not going to say more common, but you're seeing more of it. Whereas diabetes type 2 is definitely the more common one.
That one you can bring on kind of throughout your life.
Exactly. So the body's unable to process insulin properly. And a lot of that happens from lifestyle. So I want to put that there. Then the second most common metabolic disease is what is known as Gaucher's disease. And a lot of people don't know what that is because it's not particularly common. It's actually pretty rare. There's a missing enzyme that causes lipids to develop in both the liver and the pancreas inside of the system. The spleen or the liver. And then we have hemochromatosis, which is the third one. And this is a condition that affects how the body absorbs or does not absorb iron. And so those are, like, out there in the world, those are the 3 most common. And obviously most people are very familiar with diabetes. Gaucher's, not everybody knows about it because it's completely rare. And then hemochromatosis, a lot of people are starting to hear more about that because of how the body reacts with iron. And there's some people who are like, well, I don't absorb enough iron, I have too much, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of it is because specifically with hemochromatosis, it's excessive iron that's in the system. But to back up a little bit, I want to talk more about the symptoms of these kinds of things, and not just these 3, not just diabetes and Gaucher's and hemochromatosis, but rather I actually pulled, because I was very interested, I actually pulled off the web the idea of metabolic disease and the definition of metabolic syndrome and metabolic disease, which are defined differently. So I wanted to share this first. So metabolic syndrome refers to the presence of a grouping of risk factors specific to cardiovascular disease. Metabolic syndrome greatly raises the risk of developing diabetes, heart disease, stroke, or all 3. So there's metabolic syndrome. And when they talk about the grouping of risk factors, we're talking about things like obesity, unhealthy diet, physical inactivity, smoking and alcohol, sleep disorders, taking certain kinds of medications like corticosteroids, which is a big deal, which a lot of people are on, blood pressure medications, diabetes drugs, HIV meds, antidepressants, and antipsychotic drugs. And then, of course, other factors that influence metabolic syndrome are things like aging and family history. I mean, like we're all aging, so there's certain things that you're just, it is what it is. Like the reality is from the second you're born, you're dying.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting about that group of risk factors as it relates to metabolic syndrome is that all of them, for the most part, are controllable with lifestyle. So I just wanted to leave that there for the moment. Then we have the definition of metabolic disease, which is a condition that occurs when the body's process of converting food into energy is disrupted. This can happen when the body produces too much or too little of a substance, or when organs like the liver or the pancreas aren't working properly. Okay? And symptoms of metabolic syndrome are high blood pressure, high triglycerides. And
it's a syndrome or disease?
This is the disease.
Okay.
And being overweight or obese. And again, most of them are controllable. So whether you're looking at these top 3 metabolic diseases, whether you're looking at metabolic syndrome or you're looking at metabolic disease, the risk factors, or what we call in Ayurveda the samprapti, the path to disease, so to speak, because like literally samprapti translates to mean the story of disease.
Wow.
Which is, isn't that interesting? And that's what's so lovely about Sanskrit is like everybody's physical body has a story.
Oh my God. That is really cool.
Yeah. So the whole concept of samprapti, like when we diagnose, quote, I use that word very lightly, but when we meet with a patient and we start to take a look at the regular examination markers that we do. We look at the tongue and we, look at the eyes and we take the pulse and all of those kinds of things. We start to get the story because when we sit and we talk with somebody and we have a huge intake that we do that says, okay, everything from like, what do you eat every single day to how much exercise do you get? What is your sleep? What is your libido like the whole list. And people give you information, but you don't, as a clinician, you're always piecing together a story because sometimes people just don't share things because they feel like they're going to be judged. And it's like, I can't help you if you don't give me the most amount of information possible. So when we look at samprapti, when we look at the story of disease, we start to paint a picture with all of this information. And what it starts to really come down to is that we start to look at what the imbalance in the doshas are. So metabolism, and when we look at the word metabolism, this whole idea of how do we take in something, how do we process it, and what comes out the other end. Okay. So the story of disease, what story have you been consuming? What have you been processing? And then what is the end game? What is the end result? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And it's so beautiful how that works together with, in my mind, as you were explaining that, I was thinking of people who they have this story and they want to share their story and they want to it's sometimes it's blaming others. And I'm like, your body is telling that same story and you're doing something very similar to your body.
Yes.
Then you are, wow. That's amazing.
So we have to think of, and from an Ayurvedic perspective, all disease starts from a disconnection from source. So when we are disconnected from that energetic that is higher than us, whatever it is that you believe, immediately there is a shift. And then that translates right away into the mind. So not only does disease start from a disconnection from source, but it starts actually in the mind. And the story that we start to create and that we start to metabolize inside of ourselves will then give us a physical result. So if the story that you tell yourself are like those affirmations, some of the affirmations that we were reading, like, I am incredibly, beautiful and dangerous. I attract, what was the one that you like so much?
I don't chase, I attract.
Right. I don't chase, I attract. That is a very different story than, I'm not this, I'm not that.
Yeah. I'm unworthy of love.
I'm unworthy. Exactly. And what's very interesting is that just going back to some of those common things that I wrote down, which are, the group of risk factors that are the result of metabolic syndrome are things like, obesity, unhealthy diet, physical activity, smoking and alcohol, et cetera, sleep disorders, and all these list of medications. Those things are coming into play as a result of the story of disease, the story that we're telling ourselves. And so those then directly result in symptoms. And the top 3 symptoms that come out as it relates to metabolic disease is pain, inflammation, and fatigue. And so even when we talk about metabolic syndrome, which is specific to cardiovascular disease, let's just take something like respiratory infections, or a lot of people who had COVID during that whole period of, the COVID era.
The COVID era.
The COVID era.
Yes.
Every single person experienced one of those symptoms in one form or another. They either experienced pain, inflammation,
headaches,
or fatigue.
Yeah.
Or all 3.
Yeah.
And so what made COVID very interesting is that it was very much a tridoshic disease, because each of those symptoms then directly relate back to a dosha that is out of balance or multiple. And actually, metabolic diseases, there is an imbalance in all of the doshas. It's a very tridoshic experience. So, and I know that was a really long response to your first question.
That leads right into the next one, though.
Okay.
Just makes you wonder how the COVID disease, COVID came from, and how it could be tridoshic. Anyway, based on the different doshic types, how then do these metabolic diseases manifest? So we're looking at pain, inflammation,
and fatigue.
Right,
and or swelling. We can say so.
Lines directly up with
Vata,
the doshas.
Pitta, and Kapha.
Yep.
So Vata, you are going to, the first experience that you're going to have from a symptomatic standpoint is going to be pain. And so I think about that like when we were talking about seniors and stuff, the senior community. There's a lot of physical pain that happens in the senior community. Yep. Arthritis, just functional movement, pain. Like the 2 gals that I'm training right now, like knee issues and hip issues and all of that kind of stuff. What's also interesting is that from an inflammatory standpoint, one of the gals, rheumatoid arthritis, and also has respiratory issues. So then we have the whole idea of she experiences fatigue. So all of those symptoms will play themselves out. And like we've identified them as having different names, like she has rheumatoid arthritis, she has AFib, COPD, we have all of these labels that are associated with it. But from a core perspective, outside of those symptoms that manifest themselves through the doshas, what Ayurveda always talks about is our digestive health.
Yeah. Well, in Western medicine is always, we got to put a name to it. It's so siloed. So something like rheumatoid arthritis, there's such a deeper thing there, but we got to put a name to it so that we can find a drug that might fix that one thing when it's not just one thing.
It's not. And that, like, if you take away anything from this podcast about metabolic disease, it is a tridoshic experience, and it's not just one experience. And on top of it, there is also things that you can do to mitigate.
Yeah.
That really, there's a lot of lifestyle stuff. And actually, I'd say 75 to 90% of it is lifestyle stuff. So going back to the core of Ayurveda as it relates to digestive health, because everything starts in the gut. And actually, we say that the gut is the first brain. So if the path to disease, if the story of disease is starting in the mind, it's instantaneously hitting the gut because the two are together. And so then usually it'll start out with digestive problems. And everybody automatically assumes that digestive problems are just like, I put this thing in my mouth, I chew it, and like something happens in the small, large intestine and then the colon, and then there's an end game, there's a result. And yes, that's true. But when we talk about metabolism in the broadest sense, it is how are we metabolizing our life's experience? What are the thoughts that come into our mind that then translate into how well are we digesting what it is that's coming in? What's the experience we have? Is that being digested or not? How is it then getting metabolized? And what then is the end result? And we can look at that from an emotional standpoint, from a physical standpoint, an energetic standpoint. If you are taking in negative thoughts all the time, okay, that's what you're consuming. That is what you are not digesting. That is what you are trying to metabolize. And what will come out of that will be fear, anxiety, anger, grief. It could be a variety of things. And all of those match up on the doshic on the doshic scale.
Yeah.
Anxiety, boom, that's a vata imbalance. Frustration or anger, boom, that's a pitta imbalance. Grief, boom, that's a kapha imbalance. And so we can wrap all of those things around and coordinate it with our digestive health. And digestive health is not just what happens in the gut.
Yeah. Oh, so amazing. So, third question.
Yes.
It's a big one. How do hormones play a role
Oh, hormones.
in metabolic disease? Nothing.
Not a damn thing.
There's nothing. No connection.
None whatsoever. So hormones, and I wanted to get this very clear definition because people throw like the word hormones around a lot.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put this out there. Hormones, because I wanted to get a very clear allopathic definition of hormones, because that's what a lot of people relate to. And so in looking that up, and I did not go to WebMD. Hormones are chemical messengers that coordinate different functions in your body and make up the endocrine system. And so it governs things like metabolism, libido, mood, sleep-wake cycles, those kinds of things. So these coordinated chemical messengers, how it relates to metabolic disease is it supporting the different functions or the different doshas? And if we look into some of the ancient Ayurvedic texts, hormones and doshas are kind of correlated together. I wouldn't necessarily say that we could consider the doshas hormones, but for the purposes of this conversation, let's just say that they are very closely coordinated and they have a relationship. So let's go right back to baseline. What do Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, what are they responsible for? So Vata is responsible for everything that moves, is transported, and communicates inside of your body.
Wow.
Okay. So let's look at that from a metabolic standpoint. What is moving or not moving? What is being transported or not being transported? And what is being communicated effectively or not? And when we talk about communication, we talk about how things are referring to one another inside of the body. Is the brain responding to X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
Then we'll look at Pitta. Pitta is responsible for digestion, metabolism, and transformation. What are you digesting or not? What are you metabolizing or not? What are you transforming or not? And again, if your hormones are these chemical messengers that make sure that things are coordinated, we have these three huge arteries of coordination, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Kapha is responsible for structure, strength, immunity, and lubrication inside of your body. So your hormones play a huge role in that. Is the physical structure of your body sound? Is there obesity? Is there an underweight situation?
Yeah.
It is
Because let's be clear, you can still be
metabolically sick and be anorexic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
It drives me crazy when people are like, oh, but I'm not overweight. It doesn't really matter. It's not really the issue.
That's not the issue at all. Then we have structure, then we have the strength of the body. Like, what is the virya? What is that word virya comes from the whole idea of Virabhadraha, the god, the warrior god. So in yoga, Virabhadrasana, warrior too. So that virya, that hero energy, like what is the level of that? And like when we talk about fatigue, is there a constant fatigue or isn't? Like, so we have this whole idea of chronic fatigue syndrome, which is a kapha imbalance that hormones are very coordinated with and correlated with. So we have structure, we have strength, and we have immunity. What is the level of immunity in your body? What is your ojas like?
Yeah.
What is your mojo? And all of these doshas have a direct impact on the hormone level, has a direct impact on the 7 dhatus or the 7 tissues of the body. Your blood plasma, your blood, your fat, your muscle, your bone, your hormones, all of the above. And so that relationship is there. So a lot of folks think that from an Ayurvedic perspective, that hormones are the driver. From our perspective, it is the responsibilities of each of the doshas. If those are kept in good stead, if your vata, pitta, and kapha are kept as well as possible. Look, it's impossible to have perfect health. It's never going to happen. We have environmental factors. We have so many different things. But if those things are kept well, hormones will stay in balance. Part of the reason why a lot of women with perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause experience also a lot of metabolic issues is because those things through lifestyle have not been coordinated and kept well.
Yeah. Whoo.
I know. And we can go on and on. We can talk about Agni, like our digestive fire, and the different types of Agni that are out there.
There's more podcasts to come.
Yes, there's
on
so
all of this
much.
information.
And this is a super general overview. But
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Tons of stuff.
Tons of stuff.
So at the end of the day, what do we do about it? At the end of the day, your lifestyle will dictate your level of health in general, but also whether or not you have a tendency or an orientation towards risk factors of metabolic disease or metabolic syndrome.
And I think that leads me right into the try this, not that.
Let's do it. What's the try this, not that?
Well, so even just what you said right there, it's try thinking about your health through the lens of, and this is going to be hard, but you can do it, through the lens of it being your lifestyle. Instead of something being wrong with you and going to the doctor and seeing what's wrong with you, start looking at it through the lens of
wrong.
You actually have way more control over this than you think. And people are so willing to give up their control.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Just fix it. Just give me something to take. And even that doesn't do you any good because it just creates new symptoms.
Yes, it does.
So come on, you guys.
Stories of disease.
Just take a look at your lifestyle and see what media are you consuming? What is that creating in your life? The relationships you have, what is that creating in your life? Just people don't want to do it because it's too hard.
Yeah. Well, and it requires...
But what kind of hard do you want to put up with? Yeah.
It requires a deep dive into you as a person. And it'll we can go from metabolic disease to these kinds of inquiries to, who am I? So there's a ton of stages that go along with it. And at the end of the day, we have a lot more control. I always tell, patients or clients, who ask these questions, you are your first doctor. Like, you've lived in your body the longest.
I remember what you told me the very first time I saw you. Like, you got to quit one of your jobs. I was like, what? I got to what?
What?
And stop fucking eating trail mix.
Stop eating trail mix for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, it's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with trail mix, okay? But you can't have it.
But for me, there kind of was.
Yeah.
I'm like,
oh, you had a trail mix issue.
Nothing's going to do a vata worse than a bunch of dry,
cracky, crunchy
peanuts
in wintertime.
So I changed my lifestyle. And yeah.
And you took responsibility for it. And you became your own doctor.
Yeah.
Like, yes, are doctors there for a reason? Absolutely. I understand that completely. And mostly, in my humble opinion, I think that like my primary job is to educate people. Like, educate people about what's going on. So they're like, oh my goodness, that makes sense to me. You are your first doctor. You have lived in your body longer than anybody. I say that in my yoga classes. Like, give people some independent time to do their own sadhana, because like, I can do what I can for you, but like, I don't inhabit your body. And I think that brings power back to people.
Yeah.
Where they're like, wow, like, I can do this. And it gives some, self-guidance. It also gives self-responsibility and also their own efficacy. Like, take care of you, like, know yourself and get in there and do the deep dive. Stop worrying about and surrendering your power to somebody else. So, yeah. Good try this, not that.
Thanks.
I like it. Which leads us to our final segment.
Truth bomb.
The truth bomb. And I'm going to share this one. I got this from somebody that I know very, very well, who's close to me, on Instagram. And it says, be fucking impossible to ignore. Prajna sent this to me today. This is my fave. It says, be fucking impossible to ignore. Stand so tall that they can't look past you. Intoxicate with your presence. Be notorious. Remain on people's minds. Flow so freely that they'll be scared of drowning in your thoughts. I like that one. Don't be taken lightly. Be sure of yourself. Be irreplaceable. Move so fast that no one can see where you're going. Give them something to chase, but never let them catch up with you. Be more than what they bargained for. Make them hate you for being so fucking good. Burn so brightly that you catch the whole world on fire.
Yeah, I mean, I read that. And I'm like, this is Satyavani in a paragraph.
And you.
Yeah.
And you.
Yeah.
And every single one of you out there, every single one of you, that is what you need to have as your mantra, because you are amazing. You are infinite, eternal, and whole right now. Everything is working in your favor. You just got to tap into it.
Yeah.
That's it. Always fun.
It is.
Metabolize your life. Metabolize your life. Take in what it is that you need, process it well, and everything that comes out should be gold. It should be.
Like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's all good. Everything that should come out should be gold. All right. Anything else, my friend?
No, that was it.
That's it. That's what we got today. So hopefully you learned a little something about metabolic disease and metabolic syndrome and all the things. And stay tuned, friends, for our online community page that will be coming up to see how you can interact. And we have some other amazing things that are going to be rolling out this year. So definitely stay tuned. Share the podcast. Please do. Share it with all the ladies and the men who are interested in paying attention to us. Because we're going up this year.
Yep.
And we have some great things in store, and we would love to share all this information with you. So without much further ado, if there's nothing else.
No.
All right. Jai Bhagwan, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, may your soul be victorious.
Is life hard? Yeah, it's really fucking hard. And you can also have the life it is that you want. You just got to work for it.